Good morning all. Welcome to Derbyshire Pension Fund's webinar for employers. So this is to go through the main changes as a result of the recent Access and Fairness consultation. For those that don't know me, my name is Vinny and I'm a Senior Pension Officer in the Employer Relations team. I'm joined by Luke Oxterby and Mark Bentham-Hill, who will also be speaking during the presentation today. The plan is myself, Luke and Mark will go through a section of the presentation each and then do a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions for the Q&A, it'd be good if you could save these until the end, as we may cover off any questions as we make our way through the slides. The session is being recorded and will be published on our website for any colleagues that aren't able to attend today. We originally created the session to last an hour and a half, but expect it to last around an hour in total. So just before we start as well, across these slides, we might refer to employees as your employees, but also refer to them as members, as there are scheme members, but effectively they mean the same thing. So what is Access and Fairness? So it was a government consultation called Access and Fairness, which ran between May and August last year, proposing various changes to the LGPS regulations. The purpose of it is, as its name suggests, to focus on equal access to the scheme and its benefits. So aims to address inequalities and inconsistencies in the LGPS benefits and access for members and dependents. In terms of equality, ensuring fair treatment regardless of gender, sexual orientation or family status. Access and opt-out concerns, so higher opt-out rates among certain groups prompted calls for improved data and transparency to understand barriers, and to modernise the regulations as well, to update LGPS rules to reflect modern employment and family structures whilst ensuring scheme sustainability. So just to give you a bit of flavour about the main changes, I'll quickly take you through them. Before you start panicking, not all of them are for employers to worry about, it's mainly for the pension fund. So the first point being equalisation of survivor benefits. So the proposals ensure survivor pensions are calculated fairly, regardless of sex or relationship type, to remove historic discrimination. So this will involve changing our calculations with effect from 1st of April 2026, and will also mean revisiting existing survivor pensions and doing retrospective survivor calculations dating back as far as death since 2005. So this will mean paying survivor pensions for the first time for some people, and also trying to find people too. So we've got quite a bit of work on our hands to achieve this. And just to reiterate, that isn't a concern to employers, just us. So for death grant reform, we'll remove the removal of the age 75 limit. So previously we'd only pay a death grant when a member dies under the age of 75. So this involves changing it going forwards, but also retrospective cases by contacting anyone due a death grant where the member died on or after 1st of April 2014, age 75 and over, and finding out where to pay that as well. So in terms of addressing the gender pension gap, so this is the sort of main point for employers. So the proposals target unpaid leave and career breaks by improving pension buyback rules and introducing mandatory gap reporting as well. So that is the main point for employers, which we're going to go through in further detail in the rest of this presentation. And the last point being improving scheme access and data. So more data to be collected on opt-outs to understand barriers and future improvements to the scheme. So that's a really high-level overview of what Access and Fairness was intended to do and the main changes. So The phase one changes then that have come in for the gender pension gap. So these are with effect from 1st of April 2026. We've split it into 3 different parts. And we'll take you through each of them in turn, starting with unauthorised unpaid leave of less than 15 days. We've split it this way to try and make it as simple as possible. I'll take you through authorised unpaid absences of less than 15 days. Luke's going to take you through authorised absences over 15 days, and Mark's going to take you through the last part for child-related leave. Okay, so authorised unpaid leave less than 15 days. So just a recap of the rules before 1st of April 2026. So what have we been doing up until the recent changes? So in terms of sickness, APP applies throughout any reduced pay or nil pay sickness absence, and this is unchanged, so you should keep on doing this. In terms of child-related leave before 1st of April 2026, APP applies, but any unpaid break can be brought back via shared cost APC, with 1/3 cost met by the employee and 2/3 met by the employer, and they have to have elected that within 30 days of returning to work. In terms of other authorised unpaid absences, the only option would be to be brought back via an APC, with 1/3 of the cost met by the employee and 2/3 met by the employer, again, if elected within 30 days of returning to work. So if we focus on what the change is, so it's automatically pensionable now for absences under 15 days. So it's compulsory, and it is calendar days as well. So for authorised absences that start and last less than 15 calendar days, LGPS contributions are compulsory. The days are measured using calendar days and not working days for those that work part-time or only certain days during the week. No adjustment is made for part-time hours or working patterns. The changes mean contributions must be collected automatically through payroll, and it is based on the pay that they would have received had they not taken the absence, so lost pensionable pay. The employer contributions for these absences just must be based on your usual rate that should have applied at the time, and the same with employee contributions based on the member's usual rate via the contribution bandings for the absence. Few other additional points here with these unpaid absences less than 15 days. So if you do an annual leave purchase scheme, it depends on how you as the employer treats it. If you treat it as authorised unpaid leave, then these rules should apply. If you do it via salary sacrifice, generally, as long as a sacrifice salary has been specified in the member's contract of employment as pensionable, the salary sacrifice arrangement has no impact on member and employer contributions. So the value of the care pay or final salary benefits and employer aren't affected, because the salary sacrifice is included for pension purposes. If you do reduce, and as I said, if you do reduce pensionable pay and treat it as authorised leave, then these rules will apply and you will need to make it automatically pensionable. So next point, if unpaid leave is not actioned in the month it relates to, that actually means it's probably correct for pension purposes, and you would adjust the pay in the next month. I've got an example of this that I'll follow through in the next slides. In terms of unpaid leave, if it was due to be 15 days or more, but adjusted to be less, it wouldn't have been automatically pensionable, but when it was adjusted, it then to be less than 15 days, then it is compulsory contributions for that time period. So if there's not enough pay to deduct the compulsory contributions, you as the employer have got to put in process in place to accommodate this. You could do it by spreading it over a number of months to make sure that break is paid back. And when we're talking about authorised unpaid leave, strike breaks are not authorised leave. A scheme member has the option to buy back lost pension service because of a strike. However, will normally be required to meet the full cost through an APC contract, although an employer may choose to contribute to that cost. And where an employee is undertaking other duties, this shouldn't be treated as authorised unpaid leave for the purpose of these changes, because they're effectively working in another job and accruing a pension as part of those other duties. Okay, so in terms of reporting to the fund, so pensionable pay, employee and employer contributions must all be reported to the fund, including the lost pensionable pay and the contributions in relation to absences less than 15 days. So this is the case through iConnect submissions and also on any L1 leaver forms that you're providing for a leaver. So any lost pensionable pay should be allocated to the pay depending on the section of the scheme. So if they're in the main section, you'd report it as main section earnings and contributions. Same for the 50/50 section if that's what they're in when they took the absence out. The final pay calculation is unaffected. Submitting data through iConnect and also the L1, L3 leaver forms. If they've taken unpaid leave, there's no adjustment needed, as it still counts as them receiving their normal pay. And there's no need to separate out the pay or contribution figures when an absence is less than 15 days. These should just be included in the normal fields on the iConnect file upload and on the L1 form as well. So we're just going to go for a quick example. So this is an example where the unpaid period is not actioned until the following month. So if a monthly paid employee who contributes to the LGPS has a period of 2 days authorised unpaid absence from, say, 21st to the 22nd of May 2026, but the adjustment to pay is not applied until June the following month. When the adjustment to pay is made in June, the LGPS contributions shouldn't be adjusted as they're now due under the revised regulations. Also, the amount of pensionable pay reported is also unaffected, and this is because the members' employees' pension accrual is based on the pensionable pay. So if you don't adjust it till the following month, you've already reported it correctly for May. So no need to adjust it for pension purposes. Obviously, you'll need to take the pay off the member, but not for pension purposes in terms of submitting to us. So another example, if the unpaid period reduces to less than 15 days, so a monthly paid member was granted unpaid leave from the 8th to the 28th of June, and payroll were informed. The member's pay was reduced because of the unpaid period. Because that period is more than 14 days, no pension contributions were deducted in respect of the period of authorised unpaid leave. Member decides to return to work early from the unpaid period on 17th of June 2026, but it's now too late to make any changes to the June payroll. An adjustment must be made in the next paid period to account for the shorter unpaid absence in the member's pay, and also deduct compulsory pension contributions from the lost pay because the absence in the end was less than 15 days. Okay, that is all I was going to cover from the first section. So now I'll hand you over to Luke and he'll take you through the next part for authorised unpaid leave of 15 days or more.
Thanks, Vinny. Hi, everybody. I'm Luke. I work in the Fund's Compliance and Communications team. And as Vinny mentioned, I'm going to cover authorised unpaid leave of 15 days or more. just going to quickly share my screen so I can control the slides. Vinny, can you see that screen okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to cover what happens if the period of unpaid leave, authorised unpaid leave, started before the 1st of April 2026. So this means that the old rules apply, meaning the member can only buy back the lost pension through an additional pensions contributions or APC contract. Vinny touched on them earlier, but essentially the member must acquire a quote from the LGPS member website, provide this to you as the employer within 30 days of them returning to work, and the time frame can be extended through employer discretion. Pardon me. The cost of the APC is divided into a third paid by the employee and 2/3 paid by the employer. And there's a link at the bottom there. After the session today, we'll be distributing these slides in case you're unfamiliar with where that is. We can link you directly to it. So if the authorised unpaid leave starts on or after the 1st of April 2026, this is when the new rules apply. So the rules for authorised unpaid leave less than 15 days, which Vinny just covered, do not apply to the first 14 days of a longer absence, and no adjustment is made for part-time hours or working patterns. So it is if the absence is calculated on calendar days. Where a member has a period of authorised unpaid leave that lasts 15 calendar days or more, the member can opt to buy back the lost pension through a qualifying additional pension arrangement or a QAPA. The member now has 12 months from their return to work to enter a QAPA to purchase the lost pension. They must be in the same employment, and employers may use their discretion to allow a longer time frame than the 12 months if they wish. The difference between an APC and a QAPA. So the cost is a big benefit for the employee. QAPAs are a lot cheaper for the employee. Deadlines, as we've already covered, it's been extended now from 30 days from the return to work up to 12 months. So it gives them a longer time to work out if they want to do that or check if they can afford to do so. Redundancy is a slight difference here. So any pension purchase through an APC would be reduced if they were made redundant earlier than their normal pension age, but through a QAPA, it's not. It's the same as their normal benefits, which it's unreduced if they're made redundant at age 55 or over. Historically, you didn't really purchase additional survivor pensions through an APC to buy back the lost pension, but QAPAs you do now, so it's better for the future of that member's household. And medical assessments. With APCs, the fund usually asks for a medical assessment, so can make sure that the employee is medically fit to see out the contract, but that's not required under a QAPA. So now we're going to cover your responsibilities as the employer. So where an authorised unpaid absence lasts for 15 or more calendar days, no pension contributions should be automatically deducted in respect to the unpaid period. So that's what Vinny covered earlier for absences less than 15 days. Just as a reminder, those rules don't apply to an absence that's 15 days or longer. Instead, you as the employer need to advise the employee that they have the option to buy the lost pension through a QAPA. You as the employer will need to communicate amongst yourselves between your HR and payroll departments about how you'll exchange this information and who's responsible for each part of the process. If you also have policy documents available for your employees, you should review those as well, things like your employee leave scheme policies and things like that. If a member elects to enter a QAPA, you need to liaise with the member to complete the necessary form and then send the information on to us, Derbyshire Pension Fund, so we can make sure that we update the member's pension record accordingly and are ready to expect those additional contributions to start coming through. So as part of that conversation with the member when they return to work, you need to confirm to them the dates of the unpaid break, the member cost to cover the unpaid period, the cost per pay period if the member chooses to pay by regular contributions, for example, over a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc., if the amount is large, and the additional pension the member would be entitled to if they make the payment, and the additional pension to be credited each scheme year if paying by regular contributions. Those 3 points to the right there, I could appreciate that might sound a little bit daunting to begin with, but the good news is that the LGA have provided a basic calculator for working out the cost and the pension that the member will be buying back. It's available on the Administrator Guides and Documents section of the LGPS Regs website. The first 2 tabs of the workbook, because it's an Excel workbook, the first 2 tabs contain notes on how to use it. So I'm just going to quickly show you where that is. So on the LGPS Regs website, at the top you've got Administrator Resources, and just underneath Administrator Guides and Documents. By default, it's in subject order. So luckily it's here at the moment under additional pension contributions, this QAPA calculator. But if you're ever unsure, we've popped on the slides. If you sort by publication date, it was released on the 20th of April. So you just click on that version 1.0 at the side and you should automatically open it, download it through your browser and be able to open it. Mine's just opening now and I'll bring it onto the screen in a mo. There we go. So it opens as an Excel workbook. You've got some general notes on the first tab. There's quite a lot there, so we won't go through that now. You guys can have a look at this when you find an appropriate time. And there's spreadsheet notes as well, another set of points on how to use the spreadsheet. And then you get to this inputs tab, and this is what you'll be filling in as the employer to work everything out. I'll quickly go back to my slides now so I can just go through those bits. Okay, so at the top of the inputs tab, you have this section where you enter the member's details. So things like their name, national insurance number, payroll reference, post reference if it's applicable, if your members have multiple posts under the same payroll number. You as the employer, what the employer name and location code is, pay frequency, and which section of the LGPS the member is in. Is it main section or 50/50? Then you enter the details of the absence, so the start and end date, and you'll see as you enter that, it automatically updates the table that's underneath, ready to accept the lost pay figures. So once that table is ready, after you've entered the absence period just above it, you then just have to enter the lost pay for that period, the member's usual contribution rate, and you as the employer what your contribution rate is, and it'll automatically generate the member and employer costs to the side. If the absence crosses scheme years, so in this example going from Feb 27 to the end of April 27, the table does automatically enter an additional line there for you, so you've not got to worry about putting the dates in yourself. This will automatically populate based on the date range you put just above it. And then you can separate out the pay and the contribution rates, which is quite handy if your employer contribution rate changes between those years. For example, where we've just gone through a valuation, and it splits out the cost per year at the side. And once you've entered everything onto the inputs tab, you can then provide the member with the member options tab. So if I just quickly bring this back on screen, you can see underneath we've got a member lump sum only tab and a member options tab. So this will pull through the relevant information on the cost based on what you've put on the inputs tab. You can toggle on option 2 for how many years. Oh, that's just my presentation is just closed for some reason. Apologies, I'll just get that back up. Sorry about that. Okay, so option 1 details the cost if the member pays everything as a lump sum, and option 2 is if the member opts to go through regular costs. So, for example, below, when I just punched a few quick figures into it before this presentation, you can see the cost over 1 year. It would be £13.75 deducted monthly, but over 2 years it would be £6.88 monthly. And for each year that they pay the additional cons, they'll buy the extra yearly pension of, and this automatically comes through based on the inputs tab and how many years are selected above. So it's the employer's responsibility to agree with the employee what a reasonable repayment period is. So whether it could be a lump sum if it's a small amount, or regular contributions over 1 or 2 years. When providing the member options tab, ensure that you've populated this part with the appropriate email address that you'd like the employee to return their option to, because if they opt to go into a QAPA, they need to send this back to you first, so you can arrange everything through your payroll system, and so you can inform us as the fund. So make sure there's an appropriate email address there for them to return this option to. A quick point on making that decision. The regs state if paying by regular contributions, the repayment period must be completed before the member reaches their normal pension age. If the member is over their normal pension age or within 1 year of it, they can only pay a QAPA through a lump sum, so they don't have the option to pay it back in instalments. Currently, normal pension age is linked with state pension age, and you can use the government state pension age calculator to work out when that is for your employee. And there's a short URL at the bottom there. So after the members indicated their choice, please provide a copy of the Info for LGPS Fund tab by email to the DPF employers at Derbyshire email address that's on screen now. Ensure all additional notes and contact information is present before you submit that. Hopefully it didn't crash the spreadsheet for me as well. No, it didn't. So it's just this tab at the end, Info for LGPS Fund, where it'll pull everything through from your Inputs tab. And here's where you select whether they are doing it through lump sum or regular contributions, and depending on what you select, it'll pull everything through here. You just have to enter the information into the yellow boxes. So for example, if it's a lump sum, what month that will be deducted from, or if they're doing it through regular contributions, what the start month and end month of that will be. And then any additional information you think is necessary at the bottom, and your contact information. So if there's anything that the fund needs more information on, when we get this, we know who to contact. Okay, so we'll quickly look at iConnect. So before the employee enters into a QAPA, until they make that choice, you do have to report that break as a break in service for pension purposes. So as you would normally on iConnect, you've got the suspension start and end fields to report the start and end date of the absence, and then the reason for the absence. More often than not, we'd expect a leave of absence to be the reason there. I suppose education break could be included depending on how you've treated a particular break, I suppose. After the employee starts the QAPA, so this is after you've sent us the information and we've updated the record ready to receive those additional contributions, you need to make sure that they are reported on iConnect for those months. So where you would previously report APCs, so you've got cumulative fields and monthly fields here, use the same fields to also report QAPA contributions as well. So we'll be distributing these slides, like I said earlier, so you'll be able to just check that your iConnect submission or extract out your payroll system is set up to do this. Limits on employer contributions. So employer contributions are compulsory where a scheme member has opted to buy lost pension through a QAPA if the authorised unpaid absence is less than or equal to 3 years. So if they've been off on long-term sick for up to 3 years, it's always compulsory for the employer to contribute to the QAPA if the member opts to buy that lost pension back. Contributions are compulsory for the first 3 years of an absence which lasts longer than 3 years. So if they're on long-term sick for 4 years, those first 3 years that they're purchasing back are compulsory for the employer to contribute to. But you do have you can use your discretion to contribute to the cost of buying back the unpaid period after the first 3 years if you wish to, but you don't have to. If the employer doesn't contribute to the cost after those first 3 years, whatever is remaining, the member can meet the full cost. So the arrangement would still be a QAPA and the cost would be the total member and employer contributions for that period. So up to year 3, the end of the 3rd year, sorry, the member and employer would pay their respective costs on the QAPA. If the employer doesn't want to contribute past the 3-year mark, then that's when, if the member wishes to continue to purchase the whole thing, they have to pay everything, the employee and the employer cost. So just to confirm, this relates to if the absence is 3 years or more, not if they're opting to buy it back over 3 years. So if someone was on long-term sick for 1 year, let's say, but they're opting to purchase that back over 4 years because of the cost of it, maybe, the employer would contribute to the cost of the whole contract because the absence that it relates to was less than 3 years, if that makes sense.
Sorry, I think you might have said long-term sick there. Sorry, the unpaid absence.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Not sickness.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, only authorised unpaid absence. I'm not sure what type of authorised unpaid absence that's not sickness would last that long, but I'm sure there's an employer out there that's encountered a quirky scenario like that. Okay, so we've got a quick example here of absences extended over 14 days. So this is sort of the opposite of what Vinny was speaking of earlier in his example. So an employer consents to an unpaid break from the 9th to the 21st of July 2026. So that's only 12 days. Payroll is informed and the member's pay is adjusted to account for the unpaid break. As this initial break is less than 15 days, compulsory employer and member contributions are deducted from the lost pensionable pay. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the unpaid break is extended to the 25th of July, so the break is now 16 days. The extra leave is also authorised, but it was confirmed too late to make changes to the July payroll. So you've already deducted some contributions for the member on the basis of the original break being less than 15 days. As the unpaid break is now longer than the 14 days, pension contributions are now optional. So in accordance with the regulations, those member and employer contributions on the lost pensionable pay should be refunded, and the member would then have the choice about whether to start a QAPA to cover the whole unpaid period. So in that kind of scenario, it's important that you, if you've done anything and it's too late to make changes to payroll, that you are then correcting it in a subsequent period. Okay, so that's everything that I was going to cover today on authorised unpaid leave, 15 days or more. I'm now going to hand over to Mark for changes to child-related leave.
Thanks, Luke. Good morning, everybody. My name's Mark, and as Luke said, I'm going to be providing a bit of detail about the changes to child-related leave. So what are we talking about? For LGPS purposes, child-related leave relates to maternity leave, adoption leave, shared parental leave, and paternity leave. Now, also from the 6th of April, this is going to include bereaved partners' paternity leave, which also applies to same-sex partners. So, dependent on employment law and your own employer's individual policies, it's not going to be unusual for child-related leave to have a paid period followed by an unpaid period. So what has changed? So the new rules from the 1st of April, assumed pensionable pay now needs to be applied to periods of child-related leave up to 52 weeks. So you need to apply assumed pensionable pay if the unpaid period started on or after 1st of April, for instances of unpaid additional maternity leave, unpaid additional adoption leave, unpaid shared parental leave, and this also applies to instances of bereaved partners' paternity leave from 6th of April. So that differs from the old rules, which were, so if you had an unpaid period that started before the 1st of April, the old rules apply. So that would be, for example, the most common circumstance that you're going to have for child-related leave is your maternity leave. So the first 26 weeks of maternity or adoption leave, assumed pensionable pay is applied, whether you've got reduced or nil pay. After that, weeks 27 to 39, assumed pensionable pay was only applied where there is some pay, and it stops when the employer goes to nil pay. So the fundamental difference is your assumed pensionable pay now continues up to 52 weeks. So, bit of a recap on assumed pensionable pay. So, assumed pensionable pay, or APP, as you'll see it throughout a lot of these slides and on our website and in our guidance, the pay that the employee could have reasonably been expected to receive had they been at work. So, you can apply one of two methods when calculating assumed pensionable pay. So first one is the traditional and the oldest one that has been in the LGPS guidance, and that's average pay. So you look at the last 3 months' pay, including any regular additional payments, but removing any one-off lump sum or non-regular payments, and you uprate that figure to a full year. The employer has the discretion to add back in any one-off or lump sum payments if they expect the assumed pensionable pay to continue until the next time when such payments would be due. Alternatively, and this works better if you've got someone on salary and who's not on variable hours, you just use the normal pay. So current pay, and that can be used if you consider the average pay that you worked out from the other mechanism, to be lower than the pay that the employee would have received had they been at work. Fundamentally, it's your discretion how you work it out, but the principle is you're creating a notional pay figure that's based on what they would have got had they been working. So applying APP. So what needs reporting and what needs paying? The employee has their contributions deducted from their pay that they receive, and that's at their usual rate. The contributions are paid to the fund and reported as is. So when they go into unpaid, you're reporting 0 for that. The employer pays the contributions at their usual rate based on the assumed pensionable pay. This is a normal amount of employer contributions, and that's paid and reported based on what you'd normally pay them for them. The employer reports the assumed pensionable pay as the member's pensionable pay for that period. So you're not reporting what you're actually paying them, you're reporting the assumed pensionable pay figure. And that's important because local government pension scheme pension is based on the pensionable pay, not the contributions being paid over. So you no longer need to distinguish between paid and unpaid periods of child-related leave. So you don't need to tell us that the person's having a service break. So that doesn't need reporting on iConnect. So for LGPS purposes, it all continues as normal, and you're just reporting your pensionable pay figure based on the assumed pensionable pay. So there's a bit of a quirk now with 50/50 section membership. So to recap on what that is, the 50/50 section of the LGPS was implemented as a short-term solution for employees facing financial hardship. And it's an alternative to opting out so they can keep their other benefits that they get with LGPS membership, such as ill health retirement pension and the death in service. So in that section, employees pay 50% of their normal contribution rate, and in return they build up 50% of the pension they would have normally built up for the period that they are in the 50/50 section. So previously, employers only put 50/50 section members back into the main section at their auto-enrolment date, or when they get a new contract of employment, a new post, for example. So they have to put them back into the main section at that point. Now, employers need to move 50/50 section members back into the main section also when this they go on to an unpaid period of child-related leave. So once they've gone onto an unpaid period, at the next available payroll, you put them back into the main section. So this doesn't actually affect the contributions paid at all, because your employer contributions are the normal rate during 50/50 section membership anyway, and there won't be any employee contributions while they're in an unpaid period. So the only difference that the members are going to see is that you'll have to notify them that you're putting them back in the main section because they've fallen onto nil pay. And of course, employees can choose to opt back to the 50/50 section whenever they want. So we've got a couple of examples. This first one is so you can have a look at that 50/50 section quirk and how that relates to maternity leave. So this is a person who's got maternity leave that begins 13th of July 2025. The employee is entitled to statutory maternity pay. They were in the 50/50 section before their maternity leave started. So got some dates here. So first period here relates to their first 26 weeks of ordinary maternity leave, which is paid. The second period relates to their additional maternity leave, got 13 weeks at statutory maternity pay. And then we've got a third bit here where they've fallen onto nil pay, unpaid additional maternity leave. Now, APP APP is going to apply throughout the whole year of this maternity leave because the unpaid period started after the 1st of April when these new rules were introduced. The member remains in the 50/50 section while they're receiving some pay. However, once they move on to nil pay, as you can see in this last section here, during mid-April, they're going to have to be put back into the main section from the 1st of May, which is the next available payroll period for them. Final example here, we've got someone who's taking shared parental leave, and this is just to illustrate different blocks when they're taken as part of the shared parental leave. And if you look at the dates here, there are gaps between these blocks. So some of this is being paid and some of this is unpaid. So we've got a period here, 20th of January to 19th of February. This is a paid period. APP applies because they're receiving some pay. So even if they're on partial pay, that gets uprated to their assumed pensionable pay figure for reporting purposes and for paying your employer contributions. Period 2, we've got a paid period for part of this from 20th of March to the 4th of April. And this bit's paid. Assumed pensionable pay applies because they're receiving some pay again. And the second part of this second block is unpaid. Now this is started after the 1st of April when the new rules came in. So this block here, 5th of April to 19th of April, is unpaid. However, because it falls into the new rules, you have to apply assumed pensionable pay. Period 3, now this falls a bit later, so this one starts towards the end of May, finishes in June. This is unpaid. This has also got the new rules applied to it because the unpaid period is after the 1st of April. Okay, so I appreciate that's a lot of information, and thank you to everyone who's stuck with us so far. And I'm going to hand you back over so my colleagues can wrap up this presentation.
Thanks for that, Mark. So I'll just quickly share my screen again. So as we mentioned earlier, we're going to distribute these slides after the session. We've got this resources section. So we previously sent our own employer guide to the main contact at each of our employers. We'll be publishing that on the website and we'll link to it. We've got the LGA bulletin at 276 where all of these changes go into quite a bit more depth, quite a bit more technical depth. So hopefully we've summarised them well for you in the employer guide, but you have got the bulletin to fall back on if you wish. We've got the QAPA calculator that we mentioned earlier and I quickly ran through. If you've got any questions about any of these, just email the pensions.regs email address that you can see at the bottom of the screen, and we'll help you best that we can. And any new guidance that we come across, we'll share that with everybody as quickly as we can. So we've reached the end now. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A tab. You should have a button towards the top of your Teams window to log these questions, and we'll do his best to answer them. So just whilst we wait for a question, oh, here we go. We've got a question here. So the question says, to confirm, when a member is in the period of unpaid leave, we apply the pensionable pay back. I assume we charge the underpayment of employee contributions back to the employee. Yes, so even though the member has, if the absence is less than 15 days, so the contributions are automatic. Yes, even though the members obviously had reduced pay, the employee part of the contributions is paid by the employee in the next available pay period. Where the absence is 15 days or more, obviously don't deduct anything unless they have opted to do the QAPA. And just to clarify a bit of confusion on my part earlier, yeah, apologies if someone's on sickness, they don't purchase the pension back through a QAPA because APP applies. So yeah, apologies for any confusion there. On the iConnect report, does the APC section need to be renamed to QAPA? So a little, I don't know if fun fact is the right way to phrase it, but with iConnect, it actually ignores what you've named the columns. So iConnect knows what should be where, so it knows where to expect NI number, where to expect their surname, where to expect those additional contributions. So on that slide, we've just labelled what we've put as the on the spec that we send to employers, because APCs can obviously still be applicable. But yeah, on your own template, you're more than welcome to add QAPA into the title. That won't make a difference to how iConnect reads your file. Is this information available to members on the website? So yes, we did a summary page of the changes on our website. I'll just quickly go there. So for members, underneath the forms and guides section, we have a I thought it was under forms and guides. Can you remember where it is, Vinny?
Yeah, it's just on there. If you go down to Access and Fairness changes,
Oh
it's just
yeah,
near the bottom there.
Can't see for looking. So yeah, there's a brief rundown here for members on this summary page, and we have been through and updated the other relevant pages throughout the website. But if the members wanted a nice summary of the changes, this page is where you could point them towards, and we'll include this link in when we send the slides around to everybody. Are there plans to develop? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, do you want me to cover off some of these questions? So
Can do if you want. Yeah.
Got one here. Do you have to send out the ER and E cost the buyback pension, or do you only have to do it if they express an interest in buying back? So you should be, for the absences 15 days or over, you should be communicating that they can buy it back through a QAPA, and if they reply saying they want to do it, then that's when you sort of organise the completion of the QAPA form and send it in to us, and we'll make sure they get the pension for that period, and you'd send the contributions over to us. Hopefully that clarifies that. Is there any other questions here that we've not covered?
Yep, so we've got, please could you go over APP and long-term sickness again? So apologies, that's probably confusion from my part. If the member's on sickness absence, APP applies, so their pension doesn't suffer any reduction. Their pension continues to accrue on as if they had been working, basically. The member only pays contributions on the pay they physically receive. So if they're on sickness long enough to drop onto nil pay, obviously they won't pay any contributions, but the employer still pays contributions on the APP amount based on your employer contribution rate. When we were talking about those authorised unpaid absences of 3 years or more, I suppose the only one that I can think of is if you authorise a bit of a career break or something like that, that's quite a lengthy one. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be few and far between authorised unpaid absences of longer than 3 years. So if you get any like that and you're not sure, do just get in touch with us and we can have a look at it with you.
Got a question. So is using current pay to calculate APP new? I've only seen the average pay method on the guides on the LGPS website. So no, it's actually been around for a while. It's just an alternative to using the last 3 months method, and it was seen as more practical for employers just to apply current pay instead. APP is at the discretion of the employer, so you can use either of those methods or use yeah, just any pay at your discretion that's fair to you and to the employer as well. Sorry, and the employee, sorry, as well. So another question, are there any templates or guidance correspondence that we can communicate this to our employees? So there's our sort of guide on the website to access and fairness for employees. Or do you mean communicating about the QAPA? There isn't any guidance other than our guide at the minute in terms of your HR and payroll policy, how you get in touch with those members. It's down to you guys at the minute, but we will release anything if there are any templates and guides released by LGA.
I think if it's a case of the employees a bit unsure whether they should do the QAPA or anything like that because they're a bit unsure of the costs, it might be good practice to do that calculator to show them the costs so they can make the informed decision. So yeah, quite a lot of information, like Vinny said, is on that summary page and that QAPA calculator to show them how much pension they'd be buying back and how much would credit their annual statements each year if they did it over numerous years of regular contributions. Okay, yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. If any questions come in as people are departing, we'll include it and our answer in what we send around. So don't think if you're busy writing a question now that we're not going to answer it. So just want to thank you all for coming this morning. Appreciate we've been through a lot. There's been a lot of changes that came in 1st of April. So if you do need anything, do just get in touch with us and we can help you the best that we can. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.